This week, all eyes are on Kayleigh Heckel, UConn guard returning to her former school, USC, this weekend. This is Built to Ball. What's up, Big East basketball fans? This is T. Baker. I'm the host of the Built to Ball podcast, part of the Big East Energy Network. Delighted, as always, to be here to bring you your dose of Big East women's basketball, and I'll get right into it. This week, I'm talking a little bit about Kayleigh Heckel, who was a huge get for UConn out of the transfer portal this offseason. A player who is beginning to find her way in UConn's rotations. I think that I'm really intrigued to see her go play this weekend at USC. It's really a full circle storyline. It's her former school. It's the team that the last time she competed on USC, it was against UConn in last year's Elite Eight. So there's some history there. I think for me, Kayleigh Heckel is the type of player who is part of a championship team because of the intangibles that she brings, the depth that she brings. Just as a reminder, she is a 5'9" guard, native of Port Chester, New York. She was the number 13 overall recruit in the last year's class. So that would be Sarah Strong's year. And Gina Auriemma was candid about recruiting her. She's in the area. She's in New York, nearby, of course, to Connecticut. And Auriemma was candid with the media that, at first they weren't necessarily looking at Kayleigh Heckel. They saw that she played a little bit out of control, and he made a joke, don't want to spend her 4 years telling her to slow down. But alas, she did return to the East Coast and is now competing on UConn. There's some emotional intrigue, some human interest, angles here for just like the return and this new dynamic that we're seeing in college sports, which is just players more likely to transfer schools and facing their previous team. But asking Coach Auriemma and Kayleigh themselves, they kind of downplayed it a little bit. Gino just sort of made light of the situation, asked her if she was going to be coming on the trip, just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. I think he sees his role as really just keeping it light, keeping it breezy to try to take some of that pressure off of returning and not make it a bigger deal than it needs to be. Also, after the DePaul game on Sunday, media did ask Kayleigh herself about the return. She says she's treating it like any other game, and she had a positive freshman season, so she's looking forward to the return. That's what the answer she gave the media, and so I'm going to take that for what on face value. I think not always do transfers mean a terrible experience happen, and it's increasingly in this era of so much rapid change in the college game. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility that she would just leave to find a better fit. So it doesn't seem like there's any bad blood there. She's beginning to really find her way in UConn's rotation off the bench. She's evolving into a really multi-dimensional player. She's able to score, facilitate. She has a defensive impact. She's a tough rebounder, drives to the basket aggressively, and just kind of is always making the right moves for UConn, and has had some clunky moments, some of those out of control moments I mentioned, but I think in general is really gaining some confidence, some court awareness, and leadership on this team. So I think that it's really a good fit so far, and it's a player that's going to be impactful in her 4 years at UConn. She's just getting started in a lot of ways, and she matched her career high with 16 points against DePaul, averaging about 3 more minutes per game than she was at USC, so about 20 minutes per game at UConn compared to around 17 last year with USC, which, the piece there that's important to name is that Juju Watkins was the lead guard on USC last season, so she was obviously getting priority in the lineup, in the rotations. But for me, Kayleigh is an important addition. I think that she brings some of those intangibles that Coach Auriemma and his staff always love, that poise and clutch moments, maturity, credibility on the floor, has a very serious mindset about the impact she has on the game. I thought that it was very interesting to hear from her after Sue Bird's jersey retirement ceremony about the impact Sue Bird has had on her life, and just, understanding they're both from the New York area. She looks up to Sue Bird, which young guard doesn't look up to Sue Bird to some level, right? She kind of set the foundation of that. all-American point guard who competed and succeeded at every level. So some strong leadership there. So now let's get into the matchup itself. Number one UConn going to USC, who is ranked number 16 at this moment. They have had a bit of turnover in the roster in the sense that Kiki Ariafen graduated. Juju Watkins tore her ACL last season in the Sweet 16 and is missing this season. But they've brought in new talent in former rival, in former UCLA guard London Jones, experience to the point guard position. Jazzy Davidson, number one recruit in the country. So, just speaking to Lindsay Gottlieb's recruiting ability to bring in a high caliber player like that and is doing so again next year. So speaks to the sort of pipeline of talent that's being built in USC. And it's going to be interesting to see how Jazzy Davidson steps into this moment as a freshman. It's a lot of pressure to step in against the number one team in the country, but hopefully the home crowd is able to help them out a little bit and they can stabilize early and we get a good contest. Kennedy Smith, 6'1" sophomore guard. She is another key piece for USC. And really this USC team is definitely a top 25 team. They have scheduled pretty tough to begin the year. So they've already got some big games under their belt. They defeated NC State by 1 point in early November. For the Ally tip-off. They got beaten pretty badly by South Carolina, an overmatched team, 69-52. And I think that's kind of what I expect more from this UConn game. But hopefully it's a little bit more competitive than that. And, USC is able to show out on their home court and give UConn a test that I think is really important at this point in the season, especially with UConn's overall strength of schedule. I think these early season tests and getting into late game moments like they did against Michigan is really important. So hopefully, they are tested and they're able to kind of show how they can execute in tough situations. And USC's other loss was against Notre Dame, who's currently ranked number 24, and that was only a 2-point loss in South Bend. So easily could have won that one and would have only had that one loss to South Carolina. So they've scheduled tough to begin the season. They beat number 21 Washington on Sunday. And then this is one of their last tune-ups against UConn before they jump into conference play. And we know that the Big Ten is going to be competitive, is going to test them. I think it was 8 teams in this week's AP poll in the top 25 were from the Big Ten. So you're looking at teams like UCLA, like Michigan, like Iowa, who's currently undefeated. A lot of depth, a lot of tests throughout that conference season. So this is serving as a tune-up for USC. So this game, I think it matters for both sides. I think especially matters for UConn to get another big win, especially when on the road, which a lot of their wins have been against elite talent, but in neutral or home court settings. So, in addition to the Kayleigh Heckel storyline, which I think is just going to be a good test of her poise, of her showing that she has built herself into a useful piece for UConn, showcasing her growth since leaving USC, and hopefully just a good homecoming for her. Would be great to see her succeed on her former court. And I'm looking for the continued growth of Kayleigh Heckel. I think we can look for improved scoring and playmaking throughout the season as it progresses. We've seen her steadily get there, and she's had some really brilliant moments where she's scoring, where she's contributing on the defensive end. I think that it's just going to be about consistency for her. So to play a big game against her former team, I think is a really good test to see her growth and to show fans around the country what she's made of and how she's contributing to the number one team in the country. So that game is this weekend. Very excited to tune in for that one. It's on Saturday night. Just checking the time. It is going to be 2:30 p.m. That is Pacific time, so 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's at the Galen Center. You can watch it on Fox, so a nationally televised game. It's a whiteout game, so hopefully it brings out a lot of fans. We've known that a lot of celebrities, it's in LA, have been going to these USC games, so we'll see who shows up. We know a lot of fans around the country do support UConn. So some UConn fans on the West Coast will be there. And just looking forward to a just before conference play tune-up for both teams and to see how Kayleigh Heckel responds in that environment. So just want to wrap up today by naming a couple of this week's top performers. As usual, I just kind of list the Big East Player of the Week and the Freshman of the Week, as well as some of the honor roll candidates for this past week, and just highlight some of those performances. For the Big East Player of the Week, we got Bryn McCurry from Villanova. She is really building herself into a key piece on that Villanova squad. I've been watching their games, seeing the box scores. She is really the second contributor, I think, to Jasmine Baskow, and she's a junior, so she's stepping into that leadership upperclassman role. This week, she averaged 20.7 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. And Villanova went 3-0. They also clinched the Big Five title, which is that rivalry in the Philly area. So a big win for them, and just some momentum, as I mentioned last week, heading into conference play. She also shot nearly 62% from the field, 21 for 34. She had 4 threes. So she showed that she is a consistent offensive piece. She's really beginning to show that she's high efficiency, high impact, inside out. In their probably one of their biggest wins of the season against number 25 West Virginia, McCurry scored 21 points, had 9 rebounds, and shot 9 for 12 from the floor. So really, you can't beat that efficiency. And congratulations to Bryn McCurry, this week's Big East Player of the Week. On the Freshman of the Week side, for the second consecutive week, we have a Creighton freshman who has earned the Freshman of the Week honors. Again, just simply speaks to Jim Flannery's ability to identify talent. And in the local area, I think that Creighton has consistently recruited, obviously, from Omaha, but also the surrounding states like Minnesota. And Ava Zedeker, who is this week's Big East Freshman of the Week for Creighton, she went to Dowling Catholic High School, which you may remember is the same school as Caitlin Clark. So comes from a high pedigree high school, is part of a really gifted, talented, impactful freshman class at Creighton. So it is a bit of a transition year for the Blue Jays, with their last class leaving. Lauren Jensen was the key piece there. And they just had a group of players who had consistently been there over a period of 4 years and built a consistently winning system. And now you're bringing in new freshmen that have to be oriented to that system. But when you have freshmen like Flannery has, and you're consistently bringing them in, that makes a big difference. And it's great to see that they are already contributing. She's averaged this past week 14.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, 40% from the field. She had a standout performance against Tulsa. She had a career high 26 points on 8 for 12 shooting, 4 for 4 from 3, which is a big part of Creighton's system is behind the arc shots, along with 8 rebounds and 5 assists. So if she can continue to develop and be a scoring option for Creighton, that's going to make a big difference for a young team to have consistent production from their freshmen. Also on the honor roll, you're going to get tired of hearing me say it, Sarah Strong is on the honor roll. She didn't even play that much, that's the truth, against South Florida and against DePaul, because they were a bit of one-sided affairs. But she, across her limited minutes, averaged 17 points, 7.5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3.5 steals. Her 4th double-double of the season at South Florida, and a 20.5 rebound, 5 steal effort at DePaul. So 5 steals, that just shows the ball pressure that she puts on players as a big at the point of attack, outside, on the perimeter, putting pressure. Not only does she get steals, she gets a lot of them, and she does a lot of that and creates opportunities for her team. Another familiar name, we got Skylar Forbes. She averaged for Marquette 22.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 4 assists, matched her career high with 26 points in a win over Butler. Brooke Moore for St. John's led the team in rebounds against Creighton and scoring versus Providence. And she had 14 of her 16 points in a second half comeback. So it just shows that she was kind of in a big piece in a big moment for St. John's. Looking forward to seeing more from her. Next up for the Seton Hall Pirates, we have Mariana Valenzuela, graduate center transfer who played 4 years at Florida State. Another one of, just a good get for Tony Bozzella and his staff. This past week, she averaged 16 points and 8.5 rebounds, near double-double performances, and had a double-double against Butler with 25 points and 13 rebounds. She's a player who has international experience, has represented Mexico in FIBA competitions, joined the NBA Academy Women's Program. So she's a player that brings a lot to Seton Hall. I think oftentimes we talk a lot about, some of their key known pieces, like Jada Eid, Savannah Catalan. But this is a player who has earned her way onto the honor roll this week. So just want to give a shout out to her as well. And finally, we got Mackenzie Givens. She is a sophomore from Xavier. This past week, averaged 17.5 points and 7 rebounds on nearly 50% shooting from the floor, delivering a career-high 25 points and 8 rebounds in a win over cross-state rival Cincinnati. I've been impressed with what I've seen from Xavier. I think they're playing, a better brand of basketball than I've seen over the past few years. Obviously got blown out by UConn, but that's not really a team that's a fair comparison at this point. This is a team that has consistently been towards the bottom of the conference. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but had a Big East win against Providence earlier this month. So seeing that growth and seeing different players be on these honor rolls for the Musketeers is a good sign. And congrats to Mackenzie Givens for her spot on this week's honor roll. Thank you so much for listening to the Built to Ball podcast this week. My name's T. Baker. This is the Big East Energy Network. Please like and subscribe our content, and thank you for tuning in.